Yes, hello folks. Welcome along once again to the Irish Rally Podcast in association with Tree Rock. You can visit treerock.ie or follow them across their social media platforms there on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram as well. We are, of course, looking back on what was a very entertaining Galway International Stages Rally, a fabulous two-day event in mad conditions and lots of mad stories to go through, and a stellar cast as always to help us go through them. We'll be joined by my trusty sidekick, Anthony Nestor, in a moment's time. We'll be talking to Karl Egan after a wonder spin alongside Jason Black in the Starlet, fighting all the way back. Top Galway Motor Club crew, second in the modified to Gary Kieran, who was absolutely brilliant. We'll be chatting to Kevin O'Driscoll, who, of course, was on last week. He was the press officer for the event. And we're also going to feature a safety element with Derry Cummins, a well-known marshal from Carlo, and it's an interesting one because a clip was sent in to onthepaceline.com from James Dunphy, and I thought it was very much worth highlighting in terms of the box junction itself, where not to stand, and why spectators shouldn't stand there, because having marshalled on junctions like that, sometimes people are a little bit slow to understand why they can't stand there. So I think it's a good example to highlight. As always, you can get in touch with us. You can just drop a comment underneath the stream there on Facebook. We are live on YouTube as well, and we're live on Twitter. In terms of getting to the comments on YouTube and Twitter, it's not always the easiest for us to access those while we're live, but Facebook comments do tend to flow in on the interface here, so we will try to get to as many of those as we can. So yeah, let's start bringing in our guest, Anthony Nestor. How are we doing?
I'm very, very well. Thank you very much.
How did you get on at the weekend? 11th overall, I think, alongside Store Bigger Staff and Treacherous stuff.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. Enjoyed it. It's like we were saying last week. It was lovely to get out. Meet all the old faces. Everyone got a little bit older since last year, as you would expect. Yeah, we enjoyed it. We had a good run. Look, it's like every run. You're always expecting to be a little bit higher, and yeah, we'll just do better the next day. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was, trying conditions. But in saying that, it was the same for everybody. We knew it in advance. We had obviously studied the weather forecast in the days leading up to it. The only one that I suppose didn't do well out of it was the tyre companies, because for the most part, certainly with four-wheel drive cars anyway, once whatever tyres you put on at the start of the rally, you still had them at the end of the rally. The choice was easy. It was the monsoon specification or whatever was the nearest, regardless of brand. And you put them on a Saturday morning and you finished the rally with them Sunday night. Once you didn't get many of these punchers that many of us got, but it was a typical Galway. It was great to see crowds out. There was a lot of people around the Lochray area, which I suppose look from the point of view of businesses opening up, and as we know during the COVID, which I suppose, to be fair, is still there in a small way, I guess. But it was great to see deli counters, filling stations. You know, I hadn't people see there was a filling station by the sponsors Carl next door to the service area, and something I didn't see since the 70s during the recessions, where there was a fuel shortage. There was a queue for fuel out onto the road. It's something I hadn't. We were coming into service and I see a queue for fuel. I said, that's something I haven't seen for. So it was good to see the people coming to the event. It was good to see the money being spent in the local town, which obviously would have supported the event. So yeah, for the most part, look, it was great to get the whole thing going. And unfortunately, the retirement rate was in the mid 30%. Unfortunately, I think about 81 or 82 finished from 125 starts. But yes, that's down to the conditions. I suppose the conditions, remember, I suppose for the first car going through, they're perfect. And for every car that cuts a corner after that, the perfection goes. And by the time 20 or 30 cars go, you're cutting 6 foot into the road. So, yeah, it's a unique rally from that perspective, because I don't think there's any other event on the Tarmac Championship that has low-level ditches like that, where you cut in where the mud and muck pulls out. And of course, I suppose from a farming perspective, you have to see that it's slurry season. I suppose it's probably not. I don't know. That's probably not the official name for it, but people will notice from recceing that there wasn't a stage you recceed that you didn't see a tractor. there was tractors constantly on the go, and this is their busy time of the year, and they have to work too. So, it adds an element of difficulty to the event. It makes it very difficult for the organisers to run it, and then of course from the volunteers on the ground with those kind of weather conditions, it makes it more difficult. Makes it more difficult to control people. It makes it more difficult to see. I suppose people, even competitors, maybe don't realise. I suppose, to be fair, I probably do for the most part, but spectators certainly don't realise that the marshal you meet in the junction at 9 o'clock for the first stage could be there since 7. He's a couple of hours put under him setting it up, and
And they were meeting at 6, weren't they? For stage 1 on
yeah,
Saturday was 6 a.m. I think. Meeting point, yeah.
Derek will be in there later now. He'll give you an exact timetable. But I saw the thing come out for it. I know certainly the guys here in Limerick Motor Club had an early meeting point inside in Tina. But yeah, they do that for the enjoyment and love of it. But yeah, look, just good. It's positive. We're back. Let's keep going. Let's put it that way. Yeah, we'll just have to do better the next day. Even though I think I'm with a different driver on the next event. So.
You might reveal who that is later on, of course. But yeah, that was an interesting one, even for those, I suppose. Look, lots of people will know already, but being alongside Stuart Biggerstaff, you're also sat beside Dennis, so that's a nice peculiar thing. I don't know how many you have sat beside.
Would you believe? I didn't. Some people, I have sat alongside 5. Somebody said this to me, and I must sit and study it. I've sat alongside 5 father-sons, but I actually haven't sat with Dennis yet.
Okay, well, that was wrongly reported then.
Now, to be fair, he asked me, and I wasn't able to go to Donegal some years ago. But yeah, we must make it happen, and that would be 6.
So who's the others?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot.
He was a few on it.
Right, well, we have Kevin Barrett and his son, Paul, who had a deadly drive the weekend. And there was 2 or 3 others now that really stood out for me, but he was one of them himself. And Derek Kelly, I think, isn't it? That was Ken Lyons. So Ken Lyons and his son Keith. I sat with Keith Lyons when he started out in a car. Niall and Shane Maguire. That's 3. Now it's getting difficult.
Yeah. I guarantee there's someone out there that'll know on you.
Yeah, there is. Someone told me, someone told me it's 5. I'm sure I'll think of them as I'm going along here.
Yeah. There's not one you haven't sat beside this stage. But
that's what happens when you get to my age. Like, you just
one of those
forget things.
One of those fabulous drives was by Jason Black and Mr. Karl Egan. And we've got Karl here now. How are we getting on, Karl?
How's it going, guys? How's things, Kevin? Anthony?
Well, listen, come here. You had to, I suppose, overcome falling foul to elements. Maybe is probably putting it mildly, but certainly a bit of debris and I suppose, bits of stone and the most innocuous looking puncture of all time, I think. And even to get an angle on something like that. Now, I know it's going around on social media. I just haven't got the opportunity to grab it on time to show people. But you didn't even cut the corner. It was on the outside of the corner that the stone was clipped. You can literally hear the noise of the puncture. You can see it happening. And obviously desperately disappointing. But it didn't dampen your spirits. It was quite a comeback drive.
No, not at all. But I think it's one of those unfortunate things, really. It was quite a real fast section of road before that and very clean, especially with being the last run. We were taking no cuts or anything like that. And unfortunately, it came to that hairpin up the hill and it just gave way. You can see there's plenty of footage there of it, but it's just one of those things I think that can... You have your luck, and it wasn't with us then.
What stage did it happen on, Karl?
Stage 8. Yeah, the Flower Hill hairpin there.
Any of the ones on Saturday were so tricky, and what you probably found it, and I don't know, was it because I didn't see the footage, but even other cars that would have gone ahead would have cut in and they could have pulled out something as well. And
it was like a left-hand hairpin, and we came into it, and he just gave a small nip, and as you just mid-drift, we weren't even halfway around the hairpin, and the back right wheel you can see it popping, just puff.
Wow.
So.
You've shared that, Karl, I think, haven't you? Or it's on the BNB page?
It should be
all right.
On the BNB,
well, let me just go dig that out while yourself and Anthony are chatting, because it has to be seen to be believed, really.
We couldn't get over. Like we got through the stage, and then we were speaking on the road section. Then the road section back into service. We're like, what did we do wrong? It was like we couldn't until we.
I didn't see your times after. Did you drop much time with it, or?
We stopped and changed, so about 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes.
Yeah,
It's,
2 minutes, two and a half.
we got a puncture ourselves on the Black Road
Mhm.
on the last stage of the event. Am I going right in saying
Mhm.
that? Last stage? No, the second last run on the Black Road. And
Yeah.
we were just before we went into the narrow section there, which is maybe 6-7 kilometers left. And we took a
Yeah.
gamble and left it on and kept going. So we dropped
Mm.
about 40. But yeah, we're always conscious if we pull up and things go wrong,
Yeah.
it could be anything up to 3 minutes. So
Yeah, I think we weren't even halfway into the stage, so
you're not. Yeah.
the decision was made. We actually pulled in where Kevin Eves slid off. So
Yeah, Kevin Eves was having an amazing run.
I don't think he's going to be untouchable. I think.
Yeah. Oh, I have to take my head off now. That would definitely be a white knuckle ride. Like, I don't think my nerves would stick that passenger seat. I think it's Chris. I think was sitting with him, was it?
Yeah, it was Chris,
phenomenal. I watched some of his footage, and the car control. Basically, the first maybe half dozen yourselves. I can't think of the guy from Monaghan, McKenna. What's his first name?
Daniel.
Sorry.
We've got to hear that. Sorry, now I know this is actually. It's not displaying correctly on the screen, but we might be able to make it out some way. Anyway, I don't know. Can I even go bigger again with it?
The hairpin you're on about now. Yeah.
There we go. So you need to watch really carefully and appreciate it's not the biggest on screen probably at the moment, but just there. And I'll wind it back.
Yeah.
About literally 3 seconds in. So there you have it. Like
I wonder was the pressure down it, and she was just popping off the rim at that particular point in time.
It's hard to know. Because before that's all high speed stuff, and the car felt.
It was it was
100%. It was really committed.
Like, into right-hander. Yeah, it was quite quick approaching that.
Yeah, so unfortunate. And do you know, it seemed like you could tell by the movement of the car that probably Jason might have known fairly quickly. And could you hear the pop inside, or was it? Yeah, you had a fair feeling, like.
Yeah, we had a fair feeling. Yeah, I think it was only 2 or 3 corners later we actually pulled in, like, and we made the decision pretty quick, like. But look, you have those days, I suppose.
I suppose it's something you don't even practice. We had to change a puncher, and Short and I had a great giggle over it because it's something we never practiced. And look, we live 4 hours apart. But yeah, we never practiced. I didn't know about the bloody wheel. I didn't know what the nut gun was. I didn't know the wheel breast to give the final tighten. Just small things. Yeah, it's only when you get a puncher you realize, wow, okay, where the hell is everything?
I think, yeah, we practiced back in probably early 19, mid 19 when we're up there one Friday before an event up with Jason's, but we had plenty of practice in Mull this year too. So
all right.
So it wasn't too bad.
I suppose it's something for all core drivers and drivers when you get together the night before, instead of going for dinner, going to the pub for an hour, just to go away in a quiet place so no one will laugh at you. And
when you're falling over.
When you fall over. I think there's a fantastic clip. Was it out in one of the foreign rallies? Alba, one of them, with poor Callum. He fell out the door. When he went to get out, he stumbled and fell onto the ground. Just, it's all in good sport, of course. But yeah, it's not something you practice, really, is it? Until it goes wrong and it's all hell breaks loose. The only thing I've learned over time that wheels are hot. So the minute we get puncture, I'm reaching into the bag for a pair of gloves. So.
Well, that's a very important aspect of it, lads, and I'm sure not every co-driver is up to speed with these kind of things when they do go wrong, be it a tire change or maybe even it helps acquire a lot if you have someone that with a kind of a mechanical background that can have a look under the hood as well, and that's where some have an advantage and some don't. You see by scrambling and they're on the phone trying to ring someone to see can they sort something out remotely or whatever, but all these things can matter, and there can be the win and losing of a class or something, like.
There's a new product out there at the minute, actually. I don't know if Karl has seen it. I've seen it, but I haven't used it or know anyone that has it. But this new Stilo helmet out, this Bluetooth version. So if you had a puncher and you're not wired to anything, it's all run remotely. So you could get out and be changing your puncher. Now, as a rule, some fellas take the helmets off to go out so they can conversate with each other. But you could leave these helmets on and go under the bonnet or change the wheel. You can still talk away to the driver in his helmet, and he can be in the boot taking out the wheel, and you can be jacking it up, and you can still be chatting through the intercom. I'd love to try it. I know a few guys that have the helmets, but I don't know anyone that has the intercom system to see how it all comes together. But I see the boys in the WRC seem to use it now. So if you watch them when they come to the end of the stage, they literally unplug the hands, throw the helmet off. You don't see them pulling the wire out of the helmet anymore. It sounds like a fantastic piece of kit now, but a lot of people would be curious. It's like a little dongle that sits in, so where you would normally plug in the cable into the right hand side of the helmet. And now a little dongle, I'll use the word dongle loosely, it's like a little box, and you'd plug that in. Now, I don't know whether that dongle works on your existing helmets. That's a story for another day. I guess there'll be some expert who'll tell us whether that's possible. But yeah, that's going to be a handy piece of kit coming forward. Like,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, definitely. You must look into it. I tried actually the new Bell ZN.
Yeah, what's that like?
Very good. Very, very impressed. Yeah. Definitely.
It's supposed to have a fantastic intercom system in that new Bell.
I couldn't fault it on it. I said I had Stilo and I just decided to have a change and try for the weekend to see if I liked it.
There's a local man here, Aidan Walsh is his name. People will see him in service at West Limerick Rally Spares, and he does helmet hire. So I intend to try one of those Bells. I know he has a few of them, just to try them out, just to see if maybe coming up towards the end of the rally, if you could maybe hire two of them for the weekend and maybe in one service swap over, because it's the best time to evaluate them back to back or something. If I can get two and pay him for one, I'll be doing rightly well. So we'll have a go.
Karl, can I just ask, like, in general, if I recall correctly, last week on this podcast, we were doing predictions for the modified section. And I don't know if yourself and Jason were mentioned too much. And that's kind of interesting because I know 2 years ago you had such a obviously splendid run and very much in the mix the other day. So was that noted by any chance?
It wasn't really. I think we kind of do our own thing. We don't tend to get bogged down into these predictions, like especially now in Galway. It's one of those rallies that you got to keep your nose clean. Anything can happen. You've seen the modified lead like changed probably 5-6 times over the case of the weekend. Like, so it's never over till it's over in Galway. And I think if you're steady, but the pace was hot. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, we were on the limit. But it's good to race these 2.5 men.
Were you both surprised, lads, at how well Daniel McKenna went? Because obviously, you know, there was an event or two under the belt at the tail end of last year, but a long layoff, and he was flying it. Like, was that any great surprise to you, considering the layoff he had?
I don't think so. You can never write Daniel off. Like, he's an exceptional talent. Like, he's competed at some world events and etc. Like, but maybe it took him a stage or two to get going. But geez, once he was on it, there was no catching him.
Because he wasn't really in the conversation either, really, last week, as far as I can remember in general, and not just with us, maybe with a few others as well. And I think that was a real surprise, and it was great to see. And unfortunately, it all went horribly wrong, and it was nasty enough impact. But we know that those stone walls do kind of bite hard when things do go wrong. Like,
yeah, of course. Like, look, Galway's renowned for them, but I suppose the pace, like, you're taking chances at that level. No, the pace is that hot. It was a simple enough mistake. I think he's actually commented on himself, like a bit of rustiness, etc. But look, thankfully there was no one seriously hurt or injured in it, and hopefully we'll have them out again in West Cork maybe. Yeah,
and that's good to hear, because like the lads were probably slow enough, kind of moving from the car or whatever. So initially, you know, and that's just looking at the clips, and I'm sure whoever's on the junction will contradict, because probably shortly after the clips end, I'm sure the lads are out or whatever, and there's pictures afterwards where they're assessing the damage and things like that. But that's always a worry, like when you're on a junction and you see someone not emerging straight away. But at the same time, I'm sure, as you guys will know from experience, like there is a certain element of shock as well, that occasionally you mightn't be very quick to react like in those situations.
I thought it was interesting actually when I was watching, and either you can comment on this because I'm not sure myself. The tracker device, I think the boys hit the OK button rather than get the stage cancelled, which I thought was very heroic of them. If you listen to the clip, you can hear the siren in the background, even from 50 feet up the road from the tracker.
Okay.
Now, I think that's the sound from the OK button. I think. Let someone correct me if I'm wrong.
Because to be honest, when we came on to that junction, we didn't even notice the car because they were well back. There was no yellow flags, there was no nothing. So
yeah,
there
got
was
the yellow
no
flags
car
right
to be
now. To
seen.
be fair, it was well flagged.
So we were gone. Like,
yeah, there was a marshal. Maybe he was very good actually. Now he was standing out. He was holding out the flag, and you could see them beyond it. There was an incident, and there was another marshal there, and you could see they were chatting in the window to the guys.
yeah.
So yeah, they had to be fair to whatever marshals were on the ground on the day. They did a super job, like, and getting.
Do you have? Can I just ask, lads? Do you still have? So you obviously have the OK button on the tracker, but you have the board as well. Do you have both of those?
The board is the number one.
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So credit to the lads for thinking on their feet, like literally straight away, and hitting the switch if that's the case.
No, I'm open to be corrected. It may have been the SOS button,
if that's the case,
so quickly.
Should we? I suppose maybe it's a question for later on, perhaps. But you guys as competitors or IndyCars, should we be looking at a model where that's either or? Then, like, can that cause an element of confusion for the next car coming on? Like, obviously, there's a signal. I take it. Is there for the next guys that they know that competitor is okay, or is there? Am I wrong in saying that?
No.
Right. So then, if there's no board put up, right, how do we know? Like, there seems to be two methods of saying you're okay going on, but can we get lost in this by having that? Can we consolidate it by just having one, or what way do we look at this? Like,
well, the SOS OK board is the old system. Is the system you follow. The tracking of the newer system is only to assist the old system. You're still working off the old system of the SOS OK board. Now we're getting into delicate territory now in the sense that, did they have an OK board out? No, they didn't. Did they have an SOS board out? No, they didn't. Should we have all probably stopped? Yes, of course we should. But when, and maybe it is something that needs to be addressed going forward, and I'd be guilty of this myself, when you see a marshal there and he's flagging you down and you see the marshal tending to everybody, you will just assume everything's in order, they're being dealt with and looked after, and you carry on. Because the only reason you would be stopping is to go get them help. But the fact that you see them receiving help, yes, my first instinct would carry on. They're being looked after. They're fine. I suppose if we were to follow the rule to the nth degree, is it the right thing to do? Probably not. But I think we're all guilty of that. When you see someone, it's like when you arrive at a car accident on a public road and you arrive first on it, what will you do? You may get out to help. But if you arrive in a car accident on the road and there's people tending the scene, or there's services there, or there's officials or marshals or guards or ambulance or whatever, do you stop? No, because you feel it's been dealt with.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I do, to go back to your thing about the SOS OK board, when the OK button is pressed, that goes into rally control. That doesn't go back out to the competitors. It only radios back that they're okay. If they don't press that button within about 15 seconds, there's a couple of good guys. You've Joe Cochran, there's Brendan Flint from Monaghan, Ita Doonan, Terry and SVS is involved. There's a good crew, and there's a lot of guys representing the club. So there's a big cohort of people monitoring them screens, and they will ring you on your phone within about 15 seconds to know what's going on. So yeah, it is. Look, the tracking is a work in progress. The main thing is the SOS OK board. That's still the main.
Yeah, I suppose to give a bit of discretion towards the marshal officials there, right? So the first marshal, as you rightly said, from an alternative angle of the clip, went straight up the road, had the yellow flag out on the ball.
Oh, he was
and the other marshal gave the signal that things were okay. So I think you do allow a certain element of discretion with that. And yes, I know there's rights and wrongs.
Yeah, and the rules probably don't allow for that discretion, to be fair. And
I know, I understand,
I'm not going to talk myself out of losing my license here, so I'm going to shut up.
And the marshals, in fairness to the guys, they had the road cleared when we got around.
In Noland.
Yeah, because we didn't even see the car. Like, it wasn't until Andy at the end of the stage said Daniel had stopped, and that's when we found out.
Yeah, that's mad. And you were only a couple of cars after that, yeah?
Yeah, probably what was it, be 6-7 cars, yeah.
Yeah,
that was
you're
okay,
talking
because
2 or 3 minutes there,
we
really.
went through the car was there or not. So
Yeah.
we were running maybe 3 or 4 cars behind him, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'd have to check, but
Yeah.
We were probably even more than that, yeah, with the reseeding after Saturday, yeah. So we didn't
Yeah.
even see him, but look.
okay.
It's fair going though, lads, in fairness, to have it all sorted out. But we'll move on, so, because Karl, just while we have you, like, you were very busy last year when a lot of lads didn't have the opportunity to be busy, and I know you were overseas quite a good bit with the BRC events, and you mentioned Mull and stuff. So give us a little flavour of how you felt that went.
Oh, that was a big learning experience, both myself and Jason. I done a couple of gravel events here, not a whole pile, with a couple of different drivers, but there was nothing really happening here, so we made a decision quite late on, actually, last year, that we'd give this BRC National a go. They allowed modified cars into it, so it gave us experience. Worthwhile, yeah. It's still pretty expensive over and back, but I think we gained quite a bit of knowledge, and it paid off, especially there on Saturday's stages. Like, I think you're used to the car moving around more, and you're not as hesitant and stuff. But it was definitely beneficial. But yeah, we enjoyed it. Like, but
would you think,
it's a challenge.
Karl, would you think that a person that was confident in the gravel, having the car move around, that it's an advantage in Galway?
Yeah, definitely.
I would be the same.
100%, yeah. Especially on that Saturday, like, yeah. Like that first stage on Saturday, it was like a gravel stage, but
it was, yeah.
Declan Gallagher was unlucky, wasn't he? He got caught. Like, again, it seemed quite innocuous. Just caught a little bit of grass and then turned out sequence. And
who's that?
Declan Gallagher.
Daniel.
Yes, I didn't know what happened, Declan. Actually,
yeah.
Yeah, it was quite early on. I think it was only about.
I think it was stage 1, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, stage 1. Yeah. We actually pretty much.
To be fair, it must be
like
just. Sorry.
Go on ahead.
I think he caught the grass, because we caught the grass as well. We had a bit of a tank slapper up along there, and only for we seen Daniel, we come off the power, quite early, and it probably saved us, but we might be far behind.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the joys of it. So the Tartan Cup, obviously, that's a proud one. Nice to be top Galway Motor Club crew, and yeah, I bet you're quite happy about that. I know you would have been probably happier if you'd won the modified in general, but I think you can be quite pleased with how things went for you, like, yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, we're kind of a bit surprised, really, with our pace, to be honest, on Saturday. We didn't know where we were going to be with these top modified men. We haven't really got the chance to race them properly since we went 2 litre, really. But it was just when we were there after the first one, we were kind of surprised, but it was a safe side of pushing it, put it this way. Yeah, it was enjoyable, and to win the Thornton Cup too, it means a lot for any Galway crew. Like, there's a long story behind the cup, and look, it's nice to get the name on it for a change. Tried a few times, it hasn't happened.
What's next then? So obviously, West Cork's on the horizon. Mayo is not too far away either. Are you sizing up that, or what's the plans?
It's hard to know. I can't make that decision. I think Mayo would probably be the preference, but there was a hint of Cork after the weekend's results, so
yeah,
we'll see. They're very
kind of hard not to know, isn't it?
So
yeah,
and these rallies pretty handy, but
yeah, and the money gets sucked out of you as well. That's the problem. Yeah,
so,
that's
whatever he wants to do, I'll be there. Like, so we'll see.
The characteristics of the events are so different. Mayo will be relatively similar, but to Galway, but maybe not dragging out as much muck. Whereas West Cork is smooth, abrasive. There's probably not a bump in it. It's a different characteristic, but then again, it's probably double the expense, really, in that it's an international 2-day similar to Galway.
Yeah, and like a long week. Bank holiday weekend too.
Yes, yeah. Of course,
even
it's a double bank holiday
weekend for West Cork already, and
it's a double bank holiday weekend, isn't it? As far as I know, we have a bank holiday on the Friday and the Saturday, is it, or the Sunday and the Monday or something? I'm not sure.
Thursday and Friday.
Is that what it is? Oh.
Yeah, so it'd be ideal for recce. Like, you wouldn't be taking time off work and stuff. But
yeah,
we'll see. I'd like to go. We'll see what the boss says.
Yeah, see how it goes. Well, listen, well done again, Karl, and thanks for jumping on with us here. All right.
No problem, Gav. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. We'll chat to you soon.
Cheers.
There we go. So,
nice shot. Never met that man before. He seems nice. Heard the name, but I suppose it's like everything. You'd meet guys in your own class and category, and you wouldn't necessarily meet other people. Nice man.
Absolutely, and well done again to him and Jason. So, we're going to bring in Derek Cummins. How are you doing, Derek?
Hi, Derek.
Hi, Kevin and Anthony. How's it going?
We're the best.
Flying it now. And Kevin O'Driscoll is on standby as well. I think we'll grab him here in a moment's time. I think he's just getting set up. We can see him in the green room. Kevin, how are we doing?
Not too bad, no guys. Yourselves? Can you hear me?
Kevin, do you not think that these two boys have aged a bit? I'm talking to Kevin Regan now. O'Driscoll and Cummins, they're much older than they were a week ago.
I would have thought we were bringing the average age down a bit, if anything.
I think this is bad weather.
I think that weather would age you a bit, all right, that's for sure. Derek looks like he's been on a sunbed for a bit, I'd say.
Yeah, Derek's glowing there, in fairness.
I'd be worried Derek is on that out. What's that called? That stuff in the bottle, the fake tan? That's bad.
Fake tan, that's it now, lads.
I wouldn't be having that.
You won't get fake tan in Galway this weekend.
But it's true, it probably washes out that stuff, does it? I
had to go to what's called Super Value tumble dryers on Saturday night to put my rally clothes into it to dry them out in the tumble dryers.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious, yeah. I did €3 bought it. That was the best joke ever.
Oh, brilliant. I love it. Brilliant.
Yeah, you were running on wet. If that didn't wash the tan off you the weekend, nothing will do. But
no.
Yeah. We can hear Kevin has just texted me there. I can hear you, Kev. We can see you as well. But I know you were very busy this evening. You were out and about there. I think it was soccer on or something. But you've made it back to join us, and we had a great segment there with Karl, and we have a nice bit to go through still as well. But your overall thoughts on the event as press officer? It seemed to go very well. It was full of drama. You got a bit of a soak in yourself over the 2 days, but now that you've had time to, I suppose, sit back and reflect, what did you make of it all?
I probably thought it was one of the best Galways I've been at. My first Galway was 98. We came up on a whim from work. Cork, a guy that had a company car decided to try it out and asked a couple of us would we go to Galway back in 1998, and we came into Loughrea the same morning. Little did I know I'd be living there within a few years, but I think it's one thing that I would like about Galway, just the whole unexpected, we made predictions last week, as you know, and I mean, how many of those came true? Probably very little of them, but that's what I love about Galway. It's just the whole unpredictability of it, and you have to be prepared for the bad weather. We had plenty of that, probably unfortunate that we had the worst day of the last 2 months, I'd say, on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm still trying to write a report for Pesos on this, and I mean, you could write a book on it. The amount of stuff that happened over the weekend from the start. I'm still catching up on some of Killian's stuff as well, just seem to see, because I was out in Kiltormer Saturday for 2 runs, and 3 runs actually. I met Derek on the 3rd run, and in the middle of nowhere, which the kind of thing I like to do anyway, just go away into the middle of a stage somewhere, just watch things away from the junctions, and just fantastic. Like the commitment. There's one thing that stuck in my mind over the weekend was Alistair Fisher on stage 4. It was just incredible. We're watching. We're very close where Declan Gallagher went off in the first time. This is just a little bit after that, but along straight into a tight, very, very tight right-hander passing a farmhouse. And I was convinced Fisher was not going to stop. There was just no way he could stop. It just didn't seem possible he could stop. But he not only that, but he just slid the car around the corner and was by streets quicker than everybody going around that corner. I just remember that's all we could talk about going back was Alistair. Just that performance is just one of those. It reminded me of Bertie, to be honest. It's just that amazing commitment, and obviously bravery, and obviously listen to Gordon as well and everything else, and I mean, he still didn't win the rally. I mean, he was quick, but I mean, we were proved wrong. I mean, Berrien and Josh were just fantastic. Callum had a great fight. Callum McCourt drove really well. I mean, go on and on about it. It's just fantastic. And I suppose, look, from your perspective, Derek, I thought the marshals were brilliant over the weekend. I mean, there's no way you could have run a rally without that commitment from yourselves and all the guys in the ground, timekeepers, officials, out in that what could you say, appalling weather. There was no other word for it. It was probably the worst conditions I've been. I think the last time I can remember conditions as bad was probably Galway 2009 when there was a stage cancelled because of a storm blew up in the middle of it. But it really was that bad. And I mean, I'm including West Cork 2019, and that's when Craig went through the first stage as well that day. I remember the first morning was terrible, but this weather in Galway was worse than that. It was just the whole day long, But and it was a testament to the drivers' abilities and skills that the vast majority of them got through to Saturday without any major, I suppose, that we're aware of any major incidents,
The interesting thing, Kevin, about West Cork 2019, and there's photos of this somewhere. So me and Derek were actually on stage 1, which is obviously Ring, and it was like the worst ever, and obviously right beside the sea. And it's funny. There might have been a hip flask with a bit of whiskey knocking around, an actual flask with obviously boiling water. And instead of making tea, we had alternative arrangements. But that even obviously there was a spectator stage, and some of us got sunburned, and that's no joke. So literally 6 hours, 7 hours later, like the same crew had gone from borderline hypothermia to sunstroke almost.
Results,
But
we not got
Saturday just got progressively worse. Like, I mean, it was bad starting off at 8 o'clock. It just got worse.
No, it was mad. I suppose it's one way of putting it. But you mentioned Alistair Fisher, like he fell foul of punctures as well. There was so much things to talk about. It was very eventful. But just going back to the prediction side of things, right? And I think we kind of knew Marion and Callum would be thereabouts just because of seat time over last year. But and Josh, I don't know, was that expected really? And it was superb, wasn't it? In fairness.
Do you remember our predictions last week? What were they?
Ooh, we should have dug those out now, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I was talking to Kevin earlier today. I can't remember.
I think to make a bit of a fool of us, I'd say I think I had Josh
Nestor
in there,
that.
but only in third. Like, it wasn't. It was Alistair and Callum. I think I picked Marion possibly. I know Josh would have been thereabout, but what was striking was the maturity of Josh's drive for somebody like who was off the boil in 19 and the start of 20. He was just incredibly calm and composed and quick and just professional all weekend. He was just was absolutely outstanding, And to be fair, Marion as well. That's not taken away from his rivals, but the fact that they put Callum and Alistair into the shades, and probably to an extent, Cahan drove really well as well because a couple of punctures put him out of the loop, but he was sitting fastest times as well.
I think what would be very interesting, and a pity it didn't work out, I think he had his own difficulties, which I think we're going to address in some program maybe, was if Matt Edwards appeared. He would have thrown us a new element of surprise into it, considering the speed he has, and whereas his speed is, it's great. He's a great turn of speed in him. It would bring on everybody else as well because all of us, irrespective of where you are in the field, you all want to attain what the other guy has, so you'd be still trying to chase him. But it'd be nice to see him.
Well, the executive producer and researcher never reminded me of that now today or yesterday. That's the mad thing, and all the big bucks he's making, So maybe we'll consider it for West Cork actually just beforehand. It would be nice to get a chat in there with Matt anyway. In all seriousness, at some stage to address that. But it would have been fabulous to see him there and Johnny Greer because obviously as Northern Ireland champion last year and again seat time, I think, and a new car. I think he would have been very much in the mix.
Yeah, Johnny Greer was really on the pace above in the Ulster. That DS3 Citroen out, they seem to have that well sorted. That newer model seems to be, very, very competitive.
Yeah. So, hopefully we can get all these guys together because look how magical it was without them, I suppose. And then you add them into the mix, you have a fair concoction, don't you? Really,
it's a great international because when you see it's called the Galway International, so it's a great international field. When you get all these people from different places, and even when you see Mick Bracken's coverage there and listen to the Northern Ireland accent and a Monaghan accent and a Welsh accent and on the different interviews, it just gives a great international flavour to the whole thing.
Just on a separate side note, and do you know what? If it could become a semi-permanent thing, I thought what Ulster did in terms of the stream across the day was magnificent last year. The whole day, they went and did a live stream. And again, the logistics of that and the costs, I can only imagine, are fairly serious. But it was really good.
Yeah,
you know.
I watched back some of that, and I thought it was quite good. That would actually, believe it or not, would actually work quite better. It would work better down south, because
It would be 30-second intervals would help.
the 30-second intervals. Because if you
there's
watched
less time to fill in.
Yeah, so who knows? We might see that happening. But Kevin, is this an opportune time maybe to go down through the class winners if you want, just while we have that little gap there, because we are going to move on to.
If you have them handy there, we'll go through them. I'm sure I haven't got the list with me at the moment, but
I'm going to have to dig it out myself now, because it's actually gone off my tab. But I will dig it. But obviously, just going down through the main thing, I suppose. As we said, Josh has won the international. Gary Kiernan with the national, and again, super driving, a great battle, wasn't it? In fairness, with McKenna, as we were talking about here before you joined us, historic section went to James Ford and Neil Shanks, and then the junior rally winners, Jack McKenna and Anthony McDonald. Now, I want to get that class by class breakdown, and I will dig it out there while you guys are having a chat, because that's what this is all about, of course. But the standout things for you, Kevin, across the weekend.
I suppose the competitiveness of the classes. I didn't see as much of the juniors now as the others. So I can comment as well on that. But other than say congratulations to Jack McKenna, because he was won the juniors by a full minute, which is no easy task on those stages. I can probably comment a bit more on the historic, in that I thought James Ford's driving was just incredible in the historic. So he was on it. Derek, you probably saw a lot of this as well from the stages. He was driving the ass off that car. His car controlled everything. He was he won by 4 minutes almost on the historics, and like Duncan Williams wouldn't be hanging around. Maurice Meskel wasn't hanging around. Philip Wiley, I know Drew went off in the first stage and lost a lot of time. There was a lot to enjoy actually in the historic class. There was a lot of very, very good effort put in. The modified is the modified, yourself. It was a brilliant drive from Jason and Karl, to be fair. They were very lucky that they didn't even win it in the end. Gary obviously just throttled back and paced himself at the end, but Daniel just proved he's never lost the ability to drive and drive hard and be competitive, despite all that seat him away. When you're good, and he's proven he's good.
And of course, remember, you can't forget Kevin Eves, who started.
No, and I was actually coming to him now as well. Kevin was leading them. Kevin was setting the pace initially. Very unfortunate to retire, because he was certainly putting the rest of them in the shade. As I expected, James Stafford struggled because that wasn't Darien country, but still he was mature enough to bring it home, and got fourth place overall. But steady driving out. It's not what you would expect from James, in the sense that there was nothing more he could do, because as fast as the Black Road was, conditions didn't suit Darien anyway, no matter what. I'm not sure what happened to Damien Tourish. Damien was actually doing fairly well as well for a while, and he's dropped off the leaderboard. I'm not actually sure what caused his retirement or what happened there.
Yeah, he had a bad time on stage 11, actually. He dropped a lot of time, as in a couple of minutes, which would lead you to believe it may be a puncher issue, but it could be. He dropped several minutes on the 11th stage.
Yeah, Damien Toller, Damien is as steady as you'll get as well. He's very quick and tidy and neat. And he was a champion 3 years ago now, actually, from the modifieds. But it just goes to show how competitive the whole thing was. And Declan, of course, obviously got no chance to show what he can do. He was just unfortunate. If it hadn't been him, it could well have been somebody else. The junction I was at the second time around, the people there had been there the first time, and they reckoned everybody was just tiptoeing around. But sure, the reason for that was the previous corner. He's seen Declan go off, and after seeing that, she probably wouldn't be right for a few miles after it anyway. So I expect that was probably the reason. But yeah, Gary would be notorious slow starter. He'd say that himself anyway. And Kevin really got off to a really, really good start. And I suppose if he had pulled far enough ahead, he probably, he's the kind of guy that could have kept. But then look at the times that Daniel McKenna did put in on the Black Road the first time around in particular. But there would be much keeping him back if he kept that on the road. I reckon he'd have gone on to win it. Gary would have struggled to keep up with him. So yeah, that's we could talk all day about different things. There's different cars there that different things were very impressive. There was John Warren, was fifth, Stuart Darcy are fourth, sixth and fifth. They were very, very quick, very spectacular Sunday. Got better as the weather dried up a little bit, I felt.
How about David Kelly as well? That was a big drive from him.
David Kelly, actually, I never went to the international side of it. To be fair, the international side of it, had their own battles. Another man actually I lost track of was Stephen McCann. I'm not sure what happened to him. Stephen was going exceptionally well.
Stephen McCann went off inside Brady's yard, and to be fair, I was just making a few notes tonight, and Stephen McCann, John McCabe was sitting with him. they were up as far as 6th overall.
They were,
Two or three guys. There was Keith Lyons and JJ Crim and Paul Barrett, and as I mentioned earlier, Dara Kelly. And my other driver of the day then was Stephen McCann and John McCabe.
Yeah,
I actually got out. I went to speak to him at one stage in a typical embarrassing moment. I don't know either Stephen or John, and I went speaking to Stephen, thinking it was John. Like, how embarrassing was that? But yeah, they to me, I felt sorry for them, because when you came into Brady's Yard, I think it's called Brady's Yard. He's where the farm is on. He's over the bridge.
That's the one,
I think he may have. Someone said he would damage the steering arm. Just on the inside of the corner. But yeah, he was at 6th.
He had been going exceptionally well,
and he was a comfortable 6th
so far as well, considering the field that was there.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, and he was on it from the get go. Like, he was running behind us for most part of the day, just on the road. Like, but no, he was definitely my top pick for drive of the day. Drive of the day. From the point of view, the other guys, but we were used to Josh and Callum and Marion and Karl McCourtin. We're used to all them going quick, but I didn't see Stephen go at that pace before, so he's up. Or Paul or Keith, I hadn't seen them put in a result, and it's great to see it, like, because it's the next. I don't know what age Stephen is. I know the age of the other two guys, but it's great to see other guys coming up challenging the Callums and the Cohans of this world, like. And the Moffat brothers.
Tim McNulty, I thought was very good to see there as well. But Tim, unfortunately, had a couple of punctures during the day as well. And on the last run through Black Road, my location, he pulled in because the wheel came off the rim. And he was very unlucky, but he was telling me, like, there after the event, he said that was his 3rd puncture that day, like, and found Eugene Donnelly there as well. And he said that for some strange reason, the right hand side seemed to be getting all the punctures all day.
Yeah, so we had one on the front right as well, actually, on the Black Road,
Yeah, it was great to see him back out in an R5. And he said that he's looking forward to doing a few more events during the year, but he said that the car is amazing. The Hannon, compared to the Subaru, he was saying it was brilliant, like, in R5.
Certainly,
he passed the remark that he was running alongside us during the day, and we were having, like, the old days, the crack and the banter was going solid all day. But he just said, how did we drive the tanks years ago? He was referring to the Subarus, like, tanks is what he referred to them as, that they were that cumbersome and big and awkward, and compared to the modern car, they're just light years in development away with braking. We were just making a reference to chicanes. I know when the boys are in the pub, or any fellas on the pub, when they have a few pints strength, is always, they left it flat out to the one board before they hit the brake. But in reality, certainly in the we have to call them now the old world cars, when you'd be on the rev limiter at those, I think they were around 122 miles an hour, that kind of a thing, 122, 123, I'd have to check. After the 2 board, you'd be inclined to be putting your leg near the brake pedal anyway, and certainly with 150 meters to go at full speed, you'd be going on the brake, or very, very close to it, maybe 130. But on a dry day, actually in Galway, on full speed on the rev limiter in an R5, if you brake before the 1 board, you're braking too early. And on a dry day, you can take that and take it in beyond the 1 board, another car length, and go to 90 meters. And I'd say, if, I've never sat with a Josh or a Callum, but I'd say in West Cork, I'd say those boys are going into 80 meters at full speed. It must be very daunting. And to have the confidence and the commitment to break that late, it's something even for anybody that's out spectating. Watch when any of those cars are coming down, and you'll hear them on the rev limiters, because you'll hear the little popping, because they can't go any quicker. So they're doing probably 100, and I think they do, is it 118 mile an hour? I'm subject to be corrected in that, 118 or 117 or something like that, full speed. But watch how late they leave it to brake, and watch the 1 board, or in a junctions perspective, the yellow arrow on the approach to the junction, the yellow directional arrow, is 100 meters back. And on a dry day, you'll know the guys are going, okay, if they leave it to that yellow arrow to brake, the brakes are of such, the development on the brakes has come on so much over, I suppose, when you look back at the world cars, some of them are, 2003, so they're heading 17 or 18 years old now, some of them.
Big advancements. Big
Huge.
big balls, as Tim said last week, in fairness.
Yeah.
Just to take the call from him. But yeah, so Kev, I got the class winners. I think you have it there now as well. So ramble on through there.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the screen here in front of me here now. It's yeah, another great drive actually. Ryan Caldwell and Grace O'Brien in the Fiesta R2 or whatever they are, RC4s are called now. It's hard to know what's what these days, but yeah, like they had a fine drive. I mean, they were really, really on the ball. They won their class by just over 2.5 minutes. Very steady and very, very quick. You know, I said I believe he's a drifting champion, so you know he's after making a bit of a transition to rallying, and you know he's got a great co-driver there in Grace as well. So you know he could be one to watch out during the year to see how he gets on in that class. Yeah, class. Obviously, we know Jason won class 13, and we know Gary obviously, actually James Stafford actually won class 14 because he was an overall, and Stuart Darcy then was out in the Proton. You know, good steady run from him as well. Not that far off actually. James Stafford only 4 seconds behind him in the end, but so a good drive. As I said, the overall only class winner actually because Jason Black was an overall. So John Warren won the class 13, and like John was as spectacular as he ever is. I thought maybe it's a little slowish on Saturday morning by his standards, but sure, that was understandable in the conditions. But he certainly wasn't hanging on Sunday, that's for sure. Anyway, very, very quick. Class 20 was short, as I said. Class 11, class 11. Corey Eves actually, Corey was very, very good this weekend. Actually, much quicker than I've actually seen him. And conditions, you seem to, revel in those. He's really going well. And won class 11R. Sam Johnson, I thought was outstanding actually in class 11F from the start. He was really on it. Very brave even on the first stage, what I saw, and beat local man Des Lyons by about 20 seconds. So really good drive there. And who won class 14? Oh yeah, class 14 was James Stafford. Class 12, Vincent Collins. Good result there. Keelan Grogan was class 22 and a 2.8 or 2. I'll just see who else down there that I noticed over the weekend. Some I noticed more than others. Was at the end of the field. He was last car, I believe, the starter there thereabouts, but won class 9. But at the same time, but good to watch at the same time, and he certainly wasn't anywhere near last or anywhere close. But he started last, but he was moving his way up. So. Yeah, and Sam Leach didn't have, it was one class 10, but he was Rally 2, so I think he had issues on Saturday and finished won the class, but he was the only one left winning in that class by the end of it, but had been in Rally 2 from quite an early stage, I believe, And then speaking on the historics, as I said, James Ford, just as I said, was just incredible. I just felt he was really, really good. One of the best historic drives I've seen in a while. Duncan Williams, the tarmac champion. I think he's the most recent tarmac champion in the historics. He's second overall. I think he took top points for that. I don't think Neil or James is registered. And again, like that, the top Appendix K car was Philip Wiley. Fabulously turned out car. He came fourth overall. That was the Fisher Engineering one, but he won Appendix K. So yeah, there was a lot to take in, I suppose. If you think of it, there was 140 odd cars started the rally. Well, I think including everything, there was 140. I think there was 125 made field or something like that. And we finished up. If you take out the Super Rally guys, Rally 2, whatever they call it, it only was 65, 70 cars finished. So, I mean, you're talking half the field already going out of it. Under the old rules, we'll say, whereas 11 more cars got the chance to come back out again and finish with Rally 2 or Super Rally, whatever you want to call it, So, and I suppose another thing, just to, I suppose we may come up on it, but to be fair, like Aidan Connolly Rally's first international rally, he did a brilliant job on it. I think to be fair, the rally ran on time all weekend, bar a little bit on Sunday morning, which with the back road, it had a lot of water on it, so it just wasn't safe initially. I think until some of the water had been released, I suppose, from it, from the incessant rain overnight that came down from the mountains. So that was really most of the delay for Saturday morning, as I understand it. But yeah, and I think to be fair, those conditions to keep a rally running pretty much on time on Saturday was a fair achievement. And I think Derek, you probably appreciated that to an extent that you weren't out there longer than you needed to be along and all as it seemed.
It was a tough day Saturday, I have to say, and every marshal that was out there, officials, everything. It was a very tough day Saturday. From the word go, it was just rain, and then it got, as we met that morning. Like, we had a very early start that morning. Like, I was up at 4:30, 4:45. Like, and I tried to balance slow for 6 o'clock meet. And then we drove, I think it was 13k out to start at the stage for stage 1 from Ballinasloe. It was a very long way out. But when we were going on stage, it wasn't raining. It wasn't that bad at all. But when we got there to like maybe for about half an hour before the first car, it started coming down. Then it was absolutely horrendous rain all day, and there was nothing. No matter what you done, you couldn't see it. But the wind then was picking up, and then the cold as well. You were like a statue, like basically in a lot of places. And where we were very open.
You're a very open spot actually. Yeah, you were very exposed where you were.
It was a very open there where we were, and even on Sunday we were very open as well. You know what I mean? But like it's just the way things go, and you have to take the good with the bad. But just about credit to every marshal that went out there on the weekend and stood out in those conditions.
Well, there would have been no rally, Derek, if that had happened. There wouldn't be a rally if the guys were there willing to stand there. You know, it couldn't happen.
That's true. But there's another crew that basically don't get mentioned here. It's the Sehop crew that go out there on a Friday and do the Saturday stages. They were out in rain. I was talking to a few lads there. They came up to my location on Sunday. They set up the stage that I was operating on, and they said that like the rain they were setting up was unbelievable. You know, I mean, them guys out there also like in the service crew there, they had a bear like I hadn't got cover on Saturday. They're absolutely getting hammered out of it. You know what I mean? But great events. It was a great event, but credit to all the marshals that were out there on that road because it was horrendous.
Just one other thing, Derek, on that actually, I got an email. I think I mentioned to Anthony earlier on. I got a message from a lady on Saturday or Friday actually, and on the Facebook page. Just a lot of people were asking about where the rally was on and all that kind of stuff. Just general information. And she wanted to bring her 14-year-old son. And she asked where the best point was. And then late on the night, Saturday night, she said that her husband was in a wheelchair and she wanted to know was there anywhere they could go. So I immediately thought of your crew, of course. So she said afterwards that she got accommodated. She went in late, apologized for that. She said the marshals couldn't have been better. She had a very happy husband, very happy 14-year-old. Wanted to thank the club, the marshals, and everyone for getting it all organised and set up because that's brilliant PR for the sport. That kind of stuff. It's great to show that it can be inclusive as well, and I think you did a great job on that too. So it's credit to yourselves there again.
No, but that man. I actually had two people in wheelchairs on Saturday.
I saw that with you when I was down there. Yeah, I see them actually. Yeah.
Basically, they were too far back up, so I brought them down where we were. We put 10 meters back, and it was dead safe where it was. And other than that, I wouldn't have done it. But they enjoyed it, and they couldn't believe their luck. It's very hard for disability people to go see an event on that situation. But I think it might be something we need to look at. That's it there, yeah.
That's the picture. Yeah, I remember them. I bet you. I was seeing it here. Yeah,
that's classic.
Yeah, I was trying to root it out there and share the screen, but yeah, that's it. And fair play, Derek, for that as well.
That's a brilliant picture. Happiness is,
makings of the day there, in fairness, So
you have to make people stay. Everyone can get in across gates and ditches and like that. I had another spectator. He was on crutches. And he couldn't stand them. So I asked him he can come back to where the wheelchairs were, and he did, and he was delighted. Absolutely delighted. But it's something that might have to be looked at other events going forward that you could announce, spectators.
You could designate a wheelchair area or something like that on a particular part of the stage.
It's something that might be want to be looked at, I think, because in the day, there's people out there that have interest in that sport.
But access isn't, I suppose. So unless you had, I wonder, you'd see it on some of the overseas events. Certainly, when I did them many years ago, where you had designated areas. I know it was something that we touched on briefly at the Limerick Forestry 2 years ago. Whenever I had a go at it, that we had a designated parking area in service for anybody that needed it. And you just needed to show your pass on the service, and we were letting you in with the rally cars right into it. But yeah, maybe it's something to look at the future that you had. Just, I suppose when you look at it, it's not the most accessible sport for everybody. If you want to get inclusivity for everybody to come and see it, I suppose it's not as accessible for some people. So yeah, it's a good point, Eric. Yeah.
But if crews, if the stages are being picked, right? Like my location there on Saturday, right, was a big location, as you know, Kevin, right? And there was plenty of access into it. Okay.
Big wide open, we'll get into it, yeah.
Whoever is doing this picking the stages, maybe might consider picking an access point for disability coming in there, like, you know, for someone to look at the event. Now I know it doesn't work out every time, but like,
But even
it's
if you could do it, when you look at the weather forecasts, you know, people may not always like to be outdoors at it. So you could have a situation where if you could park vehicles where people, and we've done it here in Limerick in the past on stages where we were able to place motorhomes, that people had motorhomes and they were able to sit and watch it from the comfort of their motorhome and have a cup of coffee when they were doing it. So they got to see the rally, and we had them stuck right in the middle of the action. Yeah, it's a good point.
Good ideas, good ideas. And look, we're going to move on and show the Box Junction now in a moment, but two other lads I'd like to mention there. Look, I'll put it this way. If you sponsor the Irish Rally podcast, there's a good chance you're going to finish the rally, right? Colin O'Toole was carrying the logo the other day. He finished. I want to give him a shout out. And John O'Reilly of Tree Rock, who are sponsoring us here this evening, he finished as well. So lads, get in touch with us. So guarantee you a finish.
That's a good haul. That's a good haul.
Some crack for them boys.
Yeah, I'm delighted for the two lads. Well done. And Colin, like in particular, hadn't been out for a long time, and there was a big rebuild. So yeah, great to see him and Charlotte back out. So well done all. Right, okay.
Sorry, Kevin. I just want to look. I didn't ever really look through the actual international properly, and another bit I suppose we should shout out about too. And I did see someone in the comments about Peter Wilson and David Kelly, but Daniel Cronin as well. I thought it drove extremely well, and he in the polo as well. First time into the car. Yeah, exactly, Joe. And he was consistent and solid, and you know, as I said, maybe more seat time in that car, and God knows what might happen by the end of the year. But yeah, he acquitted himself really well.
We'll get to a few of those comments actually. Hugh Brogan, I think this is Hugh from McCafferty's, the manager of McCafferty's up in Letterkenny, who looked after us quite well last August when we were up there. Karl Egan couldn't pull points, but he can call notes. Nice one. Any speculation on what Jennings is upgrading to? Yeah, so we saw Gary Jennings' car up for sale there today. I think Dave Moynihan actually shared it on social media, so that's interesting. There's rumours of polos. I don't know if there's any truth in some of those.
I suppose it'll be down to the limitation of what you can convert to right and drive. Are they all convertible? Yeah, I know certainly with a Fiesta, if I was hazarding a guess, and literally it would only be a guess, the fact that the likes of Tim has already converted the more modern, the 2019 version of the R2, so to speak, the newer one. If I was to hazard a guess, and just purely a guess, I would say that's the way he would go if he was going to upgrade. I don't know, has anybody anywhere converted a Polo or converted a Hyundai, or even the parts available to convert them? Yeah,
the Hyundai has been converted, and Darren McHale had one there some time back, a year or two ago. Remember, he had a right and drive one. Alan Carmichael drives one up north as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So
that could be it then, yes.
Yeah. But I would say probably in terms of performance, what Tim has is probably the best right and drive is probably what you get at the moment. Yes. So that's set up. You know.
Another few comments. This is Irish Rallying page have said fantastic weekend of rallying in Galway. The hype is well and surely back. And Beverly Spillane says definitely agree with having great handy places for disabled people and the elderly, as a lot of these people have put money into motorsport in years gone past and keep it alive. Like road racing, maybe a few fields for parking could be an idea. Now, obviously, when conditions are a little bit different to last weekend, because there wouldn't be hope of getting the car back out of a field, I'd say, to go into it at the weekend. But it is a good point for events that, you know, as we progress through the year, we might have better conditions. So definitely keep the comments coming. Don't be afraid to get in touch with us. So let's bring us on to this then, right? So James Dunphy sent this into onthepeso.com. And I thought it was definitely worth bringing up. And Derek, as a marshal, maybe we might talk through this a bit. So I've deliberately kept the volume off on this because it's just too loud and I won't be able to talk over it. Quite simple. But I think there's 3 or 4 cars. So this isn't the best example, right? But you can see the junction is opened already, or has been opened. Someone's gone up the escape road. And I think Donna Kelly comes on. Yeah, here we go. Straight down, and obviously pulls the handbrake to get back going. And another good example is coming with Gary Jennings actually in a moment's time. I think this next one is kind of innocuous enough, just a bit of a spin. But we finished up with Gary Jennings' one. You know, there's a lot of speed coming in there. And what we see, Derek, a lot of the time, or what you would see, because look, you're on events 10 times more than I am, but I have marshaled with you, is that people have a tendency to stand. You can't really see where the cursor is, but you can see where Gary's car is. They're still looking to stand there. And sometimes they're not best pleased when they're told not to.
That's true. You can get a lot of difficulty ones. That particular junction, there's actually a crest coming out over that. That was actually a blind junction because you come over a crest and there's a sudden square right. Yeah, because I remember coming down over it, and myself and Alex were coming behind, and all of a sudden you went up this crest, and next to the Sutton Square, right?
Yeah.
But 200 junctions, right? Myself and the lads, that we do a certain thing when we go to a location, okay? When we be doing a location, say we 200 run off and maybe a 50, whatever the story is, we would park up on location and we would walk 100 meters up the road, 100 meter exit, 100 escape road, whatever it is. And we'd look for a gate or some kind of an idea that where we're going to put the spectators or how we're going to get down to the junction where we are. It's all about planning as well. But that particular junction there I was looking at there a few times, and there's no way for spectators to come down there because you have a river there to cross as well, I see. So it's very difficult there. But I think if you actually coordinate that with the marshal at the end of the 200, and if they want to come down before the event, you could actually communicate it very well. Or
I'm going to bring this up on screen again. So where Gary's car is then, are you saying to put marshals further back to one side of where that car is?
Yeah, I'm saying to you like that 200, right? After 200, tape,
Yeah.
or whoever's there, blockage, you should have a marshal there. Someone with this working with you. And communication back to whoever's on the location or like that. But it has to be an alternative somewhere getting out, because in junctions like that, it's very difficult to manage that. Do you know what I mean? And no matter how good you do it, you'll always get one or two spectators that will actually not.
Well, do you know what? Right, a good example of this was probably 3 years ago up in Donegal, where we had a similar location, if you remember, with a big runoff, and a couple of wise guys came down. I think a couple of cars were going through, and insisted on going up there. And when they were told not to, proceeded to go break the tape as well, just for good measure, right? And I wasn't best pleased about that, but I kept it cool as best I could, and in the nicest way possible. I was like, lads, I won't say what I said, actually, because it probably wasn't the nicest way possible. But I did reason with them, and it wasn't in a confrontational manner. It was just, hold on now for a sec, lads. And that's not nice, and it puts you off. And Derek, as I said to you, and we referenced this a few times with regards to Glen Village 3 years ago, where that situation occurred, where someone turned up, had a good few pints on board, disappeared for a minute, came back with cuts on the eyes, and then proceeded to try and walk out in front of a live stage. And that was scary now. And I thought long and hard about marshalling again after that. And it actually would turn you off big locations as well, to an extent, right? But a lot of the time, you would understand maybe perhaps if these are younger people, but they're grown men and women. And I don't get why they don't understand simple mechanics of why they're being told what to do. And it's not in a confrontational way. It's in an open and honest way. But they seem to take exception to that. They must all think they're Usain Bolt or something. I don't know. But just listen, you know.
You'd see it though, Kevin. Though you'd see it even as a media person coming in, and I get it from the point of view of a spectator as well. Media people come in and they may take the best spot, but it also happens in a situation where everything is in place. Derek has a junction set up. And in the last minute, guys turn up and they stand exactly where we've been told not to stand or try to stand there, and then they cause an argument and they cause a row. And but just going back to that stage actually that you're showing there, that I was actually a quarter mile up the road from that. I think there's a couple of factors at play at that one. The stage ran about 25 minutes late, so because of that flooding or whatever. So I would expect everybody was on location well in advance of that anyway. There was no one coming in. That's a 3.2 very narrow road, 3.2 kilometer section. I measured it coming into that junction. There's also the fact that, from what I heard, I'd say about 50 cars either spun or went up the road or went left or whatever. And I said there was nobody leaving that junction, A, for their safety, and B, for the entertainment. I think that was just the way it was. But I get your point, what you're saying, though. There definitely should be somebody on the far end of that wall, even, just there anyway, But I think they might have helped him in that situation at the race stage. Did run a bit late because you're not going to come in 25 minutes late into the first stage or whatever it was on the Sunday morning.
Kevin, was the access or either of you, was the access to that location coming towards where the cars were?
Yeah.
So
straight down at the house. Yeah,
coming towards it.
Yeah.
I do know because I would do a number of these safety checks 6, 8, 10 weeks out from the events with safety officers, and have done for many a year. We would often look at particular locations and see how close they were to main roads, because as part of the safety plan that's done up, it's measured as to, has it good access, poor access, what is what's the direction of flow of the spectator coming in.
Yeah. That
And
one
it's something that
had the only road, Anthony.
you would mention it, that you would put, as exactly as Derek said, and we have done it in the past, that if you thought that was the access was coming right towards the vehicles, what we've often done in that case is drive down to where you saw Donna Kelly spin around and see if we did put a marshal there, can we direct them into the field and up the other way? And it is done now. I don't know the case. What happened?
The terrain there is quite difficult because there's high ditches coming into that corner on the right hand side. It's okay actually on the exit on the inside of that corner. It's safe and up there. It's high as well. But the problem is that's little section of road that comes down into it. Like it's the road coming up to that point is actually, as I said, 3.2k from the main road or something, and it's narrow in places, it's wide in other places. There are a few houses further up where that car went down a spun. So the parking up there really wasn't an issue. And at a certain point, you know well that if you come in and you have 1.6 or 1.7k of traffic area, you're probably not going to keep going down that road. I suppose the thing was people seemed to be in place beforehand. There just wasn't much place for them to get out afterwards, if anyone did want to go.
I suppose it's the one issue we have, that I suppose with the sport, the likes of those videos and all those shots make that junction more popular should the event run next year, and people say, yeah, that was brilliant, it's on YouTube or whatever the case may be.
That was being used actually as a straight through in the past, and it's been used as a square right uphill as well in the past. So,
but some can be more difficult than others anyway. In general, lads, like it's not always fair to say like we should throw this lad here or whatever. Sometimes it's not possible. There's no gate there, as you've said, or there's no other way of rigging that around. But the one thing I would like to point out that I would like to see more marshals doing, and it's something that Derek always does, you always, as standard, put someone about 50 metres, maybe more, up the road with the yellow flag, so that they don't have to run up the road with the yellow flag when the stage is live.
And when we're going out, it's critical. We always plan it out. We'd always look at the location. And as I was saying, we walk 100 on the entry and 100 on the exit, and we see if there's a problem. Where we put spectators, where we can't. We pick out where we put the flag. And sometimes we use 2 flags before we come into junction because it could be a blind spot. But the only thing about it, we have the communication system, and it works very well. Over the weekend in Galway, that played a massive part with us in Galway with the radios and stuff. And one thing I think we had an issue on Saturday, actually, where you were with me, Kevin. There was a location 4 there. There was a quad that went out on the road in the middle of the stage, right?
Right.
The stage had stopped. Now, I knew it had stopped, but the marshals on location 4 didn't know. Now, I could see location 4. Do you know what I mean? And the spectators went out. The next thing, all I could see, they said on the radio, stage back live, car went in, and wherever it was. Next thing, we were looking up the road. Next thing, Alex raised me, said the quad is on the road, and the car was coming behind him. You know what I mean? Like it's either looking up at this down in my own because I'm about 400 odd meters down the road, and I can't do a thing about it. But I think something's going to have to be done, because I think if you have a radio or scanner, listen to the radio frequency, the rally radio, you know when the car stopped, you know when the car just live, you know the last car's gone in, everything. And I think it needs to be brought up because there's just been too many mistakes, and one of these days mistake is going to be wrong, and that's it. It's going to be too late then. But
the one thing you'll find, I suppose, that vehicles on the road is not something you see. To be fair, it's once in a blue moon it happens.
That is once in a blue moon. Now, in fairness, to
be fair, it's
no, it does. You get not time, but but in Galway now this year, I was lucky enough there because I had all the coordinates for my locations. And I had to go into Google Maps, and I even knew on Saturday there was a gate 50 meters before the 50-meter box junction, and I knew. I even said to the lads in the group chat, I said, we're going to open that gate and we're going to let them up the back there in the wall, and it was worked well. And I had plans made out for location 5 on Sunday, but when the stage coming around me Saturday night and says, do you mind getting changed over to location 7? So we did, but we went over there. Now that was absolutely mental. That was the spectators coming from Loughrea there. Yeah,
it's too close. You have two roads coming in from Loughrea. It's a crossroads, so you're going to have 2 roads that are available for traffic. Yeah.
But I think a lot of it needs planning. Needs to plan it well. But I think the way I got the location sent to me about a week previous to the event as the Google coordinates for the location, you can go in on Google and you can view it. right? And you can look at that location and say, right, there's a gate there now with 200. I can tape it off and put a different way and get the spectators coming down to the field down to me. You mean, okay, that's the way we done it on Sunday. We did 200 off there, and I went up the road. Now, I hadn't seen this location until Sunday morning, but there was a gate. I opened the gate back out into the road, and I put tape across it. I put a sign with spectator signs on into the field, and they walked down the field onto me and in behind the gate where I wanted.
This, to be fair, I suppose I think it needs to be made clear. This is in addition to the safety plan. This isn't instead of the safety plan. The safety plan is the gospel, like, and this what you're doing is just
enhancing
due diligence, and just going that extra step again. But of course, you see, Derek, the difference there is you have the experience, and
yes, you see,
this is
this is the other side.
Saying the old dog for the long road, you know exactly what
But Derek, also, and just before you progress with that further, is everyone doesn't have the luxury of knowing, like, you know, you're going to go to this location, you have the coordinates. Some people are rocking up on the morning and they're given location there, so they don't have that advantage. So, you know, if there is a way of, in a broader context of people, and I appreciate there will be always people that have never done it before, if they even listen to that much and got that from this segment, that's very important. Just the coordinates to get the actual view of where they are and see, is there some way of enhancing the safety. I think that's a good learning point from the discussion here. Like,
I found when I got the GPS coordinates, I could look at location and I could visual what the idea was, and I had a plan in my head going ahead. I knew where I was going, what I was doing. Martin and Alex knew everything was above board. But there's another element to this, is training and experience. And at the moment there, the way I would like to train marshals is basically practicality. It's set up a dud stage, basically, like maybe 3-4 kilometer stage with a couple of chicanes, a couple of junctions, and get them set up. Then send in someone that basically they don't know what serves as a spectre and be as awkward as you want, and try and see it go. But people skills is essential. I'm telling you here now, if you start effing and blind at spectators coming up to your location, you're on the wrong foot straight away.
Oh yeah. You have the crowd turn against you straight away. I've seen it happen in the past. You do.
Yeah. So that's where we're at, lads. We're going to have to move on. And
actually, Kevin, sorry again. I just got a text there from George Hayes, stage commander on the Black Road Sunday, and he just said thank Derek and all the marshals for the fabulous work they did on that stage for him on Saturday or Sunday, I should say, Sunday morning. So,
and there is a message as well from Aidan Harper.
On a completely lighter note, I'll just give you a good news story. To see the guy in the photograph of the wheelchair, a very I won't mention his name now because he didn't say I could, even though he might text me now and tell me, like, the guy in the wheelchair, I don't have his name, but he won the Borough Stages Rally in 1986.
Yes, actually, that man there was actually telling me his rallying career. Today his 90s up to late 90s, and it was a very interesting character to talk to on that junction that day, and to listen to him what he went through and the roads, and the way the Galway roads have changed since he done it. It was very interesting, actually, character to talk to for a couple of hours there.
And I want to read out that message because the president of Motorsport, Aaron Aidan Harper, has been in touch again and has said a major thank you to all the marshals, timekeepers and officials who braved the elements of the weekend. Without them, nothing would happen. Incredible competition over the weekend. And Aidan Connolly, very good COC. So, that's the story. Lads, look, we're probably coming near the end of our tether here, just time-wise. We've had a very good discussion. I think lots of key learning points from that as well, from the safety element, and obviously great to get the thoughts in terms of the event itself and the action that unfolded. But any closing remarks, I suppose, from any before we do call it night?
I just like to say that we need to get training back up for the marshals in ASAP this year. Need to get things on the ball because, but as I was saying, people skills is critical. I think that's the way. If you treat them respect, they respect you, you'll work together. And like, I was in Galway there like on the weekend, and I was asking the spectators for €50 donations for fertilizer because I got up €900 a ton, like, and the crack I was knocking over like on Saturday, like, you know what I mean? And
I know, not even into farming.
That's the fact. Every time I asked up and they're standing, they said, "Oh, going to feed was €50," and they said, "Why?" I'm collecting funds for the fertilizer because it's gone dear.
All partial, yeah. Anthony.
Yeah, I was. I suppose, look, not to be putting a negative spin in it, but just maybe as a learning thing. We've seen for a number of events, from nearly the Cork 20, the Historic Lakes, Wexford, and now Galway, there's been timing issues. Whereas competitors, there's issues with times. I think I suppose if just to learn, I suppose if somebody could pick up on this and learn on it, I just looked into some of those events as to why is there such an issue with timing, and why is the times wrong when they get published and so on and so forth. And I think a lot of it goes back to the clubs. I think the clubs need to just be more careful when they're picking their flying finish. The stage 10 in Galway, so it was the first stage out Sunday morning, and each rotation of that there was timing issues. And what seemed to be wrong was that the flying finish was placed, I should say, on an extremely fast section of road. And either side of where the flying finish was a 12-foot wall. So the person that was reversed in or part in the flying finish had a very, very narrow window to catch the car number going past them like a bullet, because we were pretty much on the rev limiters going past them. And because of that, whereas they did have the finish time, they may not necessarily have had the car number. Now, as it turns out, the timekeepers on that particular location were very experienced people. So then you would ask, why? So obviously that was the reason. The reason they had the times, they just didn't know what car the time belonged to, especially if a bunch of cars came together. So I think clubs just need to be more cognizant of the fact that the person in the flying finish vehicle needs to physically see the car approaching and the car numbers. I know Kevin has an idea that he bounced off me today. I thought, that was a runner. And another thing that and I was looking at some photographs there of Galway tonight. The Galway rally, because Galway rally is muck, and it has been since God was a boy. But if you look at the door numbers in Galway, the door decal is the same, 2 foot by 2, but the number is quite small. So is it a case, do we need to go to the WRC style numbers, slightly higher in the door? Do we need to go to the forestry or gravel style luminous numbers on the back window to make it easier for the flying finish person to pick up on the time? But another issue, and it wasn't the issue in Galway, I want to stress that, a lot of timekeepers are landed into the positions at the last minute. The training, if they don't get it, I think clubs should provide, or certainly look into the option of doing a training thing, or a training day, or a little, even on a Zoom thing, just a refresher for people how to operate the system. I know certainly the results provider, I have spoken to him at Lint several times over this, and I know the poor man, he got a bit of a bashing on social media, I think maybe after Cork or after Killarney, I think. And it's not, the issue is not with the result system. The issue is with the choice of location for the flying finish or the training. Now, Killarney was a different issue. It was a coverage issue. There was no coverage at the end of one of the stages. I think, well, it's pretty common. Everyone knew that there was no results from Moss Gap. And it was a coverage issue. There was no coverage at the finish. So I think if clubs in general going forward were a bit more cognizant of those three issues, plus Kevin's issue, which he'll tell you there about now, I think would have been a great help as well.
Yeah,
what's that, Kevin?
I suppose we discussed this earlier on today, but just actually looking at the numbers thing, I'm a believer of the big numbers. I mean, I've seen it before. I think the Killarney Rally, Lakes did it for years. Donegal actually in recent years had proper full size door numbers, which I think. Yeah, I get the luminous thing. It doesn't always work though. I think in tarmac rallying, I'm not sure, but certainly I think bigger and visible numbers would help. But the other thing I would very much be in favour of is the tracking system that we use. Fair enough, there's probably an admin version out there that they use in headquarters, but a simplified version where you just have a number and a dot. where anyone can access. I know it happens in the BRC, where all of us, Joe Soaps, can see where things are happening, but most particularly those at the flying finish. So if you were looking at if you have your tablet or whatever you have at the flying finish or laptop, and you see 3 cars are coming together, at least you can identify those 3 cars coming in. The tracking system shows the cars 5, 6, and 7 are coming in together. You know the order they're coming in based on that. And the idea is it would help, I think, the finish marshals, whatever with the start marshals, it would certainly help the finish marshals. And I get that with tracking and the way they're set up, there is data on them, but I'm sure a simplified version could be used, a stripped down version where all you see is the number, the dot, the color of it is red, or is it, is it stopped, or is it yellow, is it going? And if the flying finish person has that information in front of him, he can see, I better get straightened up here now, there's 4 cars coming in here together, I better get beyond the ball for this one, so I have the numbers in order. I think it's a very simple way of doing it. If it can be done, there's no reason why I think it can't be done. It's just it would make flying finish marshal's life an awful lot easier.
Not to give him access to all the information, but
no, just the dots, the number, car number, and whether it's stopped or not stopped. Or,
and then you'd wonder, would it help Derek's situation that if everybody had it?
I think
see the cars were coming, and irrespective of what the car number was.
I think there's a huge safety element in that. Yeah, I think there is a huge safety. I think that is a good idea, and they use it in the BRC. I've seen in BRC rallies have been able to follow tracking of where the car is online. You don't know anything else other than the car is going or is stopped, and that's all you need to know. And that's fine if there's a hold up anywhere along the way. I think having something like that more widely available, I think, would make the sport an awful lot safer, and it certainly would make the timekeepers at the flying finish life an awful lot easier too.
It's great to hear this progressive conversation, lads, by the way. Do you know that?
Yeah, but you see, the trouble is with the timing. There's been too many instances now. As I said, we had Cork 20. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but I know there was some bits of confusion. There was confusion in Wexford, there was confusion in Killarney, there was confusion in Galway. So it's happened too regular for it not to be addressed. So again, it's only a small thing. And just when you're asking about things, I think the club might have missed a point where during COVID, we were doing this hands-off approach with time cards, which I was really, really in favour of. During COVID, certainly, because obviously you didn't want anyone handling your time card. But what we noticed was how efficient it was. You literally pulled up to the control, you got your time card, and you held it to the glass or the window of your vehicle. The timekeeper saw it, you wrote in your time. The tracking obviously picked up that you were there. And you moved on up to the start. You went down to the start line and a man was standing there with a whiteboard. Your start time was on it. You wrote it in yourself. It was super efficient. But I think it was disappointing when I saw in Galway that they went back to the archaic system, as I call, after getting so used to that system last year. I think they might have missed a point there. I was so in favour of it. And it started off so well. We were in Park Ferme on Saturday morning. And when we left Park Ferme, he made my day, this man. I held up my time card to him and he touched no time card. And we were gone from him within 2 or 3 seconds. We were driving as I was writing it in. And unfortunately, once we got to service, the whole thing went back to the old system and all the stages, there was no whiteboards. And you feel sorry for the people because I see on one stage there on Saturday morning, there was a young lady and it was absolutely spilling with rain. There was a gentleman standing out. This young lady was walking back to the cars in deluges rain. We'd hand out the time card. She'd walk up. The poor time card was getting wet. She was getting wet. She'd bring it to the gentleman. He'd write it in the master sheet. He'd write it in the time card. She'd walk back again in the rain and hand it in the window. And I'm saying to myself, lads, you could have spared yourself a lot of trouble. Just sit inside in the car, hold the whiteboard up to the window, write it down. You didn't even have to get out in the rain. So, yeah, I was disappointed. I don't know what way clubs are going to do that for the rest of the year, but the old system from a time point of view to keep an event moving out of control, to keep an event moving on the start line and on the flying finish was the same. A man would be just standing there the minute you arrived and your time and you wrote it and you were gone. You were literally you wouldn't be there 3 seconds, but whereas the old system, you could be there 15 seconds handing it out and handing it back. And yeah, little things like that. But again, they're only little things. I think the event as a whole was a great success.
Yeah.
And yeah, I enjoyed it.
Good stuff.
Definitely back next year for more.
Yeah.
Or Kevin.
Listen, thanks a million, lads, for your time. Really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. Great conversation and great ideas. A lot of those are kind of coming into practice already. I think there's lots of learning to be got from the discussion there. So well done to the three. So Anthony Nestor, Derek Cummins and Kevin O'Driscoll, thanks a million for coming on again, and I will chat to you soon. All right.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Cheers. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks
Thank
a million,
you.
Kevin. So yeah, that's where we wrap it up, folks. We just want to thank our sponsors again, of course, Tree Rock. You can visit treerock.ie and follow them on social media platforms as well, obviously on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. We're also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at Irish Rally Pod. You're obviously watching live, some of you on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. And just before we wrap up as well, I want to say thanks to people who actually bought us a few coffees last week. We tried this initiative where we put up a link. As we said, content is free. We're going to keep it free. And having said that, myself and Mr. Nestor are on the phone quite regularly, and was talking to Kevin O'Driscoll quite regularly over the last few weeks as well, and indeed Derry Cummins and all the lads, and trying to get guests together, trying to do the research. I think the easiest part for people that don't understand this whole podcast concept, the easiest part is actually doing this podcast live. It's everything afterwards and before is the actual headache. So, for example, when we finish this up, we have to wait a few minutes, get our audio taken from our video. We chop and change that slightly, put it up on our audio hosting platform, and then it goes to Spotify, Apple, Google, etc., and could take some time. And occasionally then it might take another time or a little bit of time before you do get to share it on social media and get it across and get people listen to it and all. So there is a bit that goes into it, but we enjoy it at the same time. So putting it out there, no obligation, but if you do want to support the podcast, you can for a price of a coffee. The link is underneath the Facebook stream there. And if not, I won't take offense. We enjoy it. It's good fun. It's a great sport, and very much looking forward to our next episode. So thanks to all our guests, and thanks to Karl Egan, who we obviously had on earlier, in addition to Derry Cummins and Anthony Nestor and Kevin O'Driscoll as well. Thanks for everyone getting in touch as well. Don't be afraid to do that anytime we're live. And we try to get as much comments in as possible. Not always humanly possible, having said that. But well done to everyone involved with the Galway International Rally, and we'll chat to you again soon.